Happy 11th anniversary, Danganronpa! Despite how young this series is compared to other video game franchises, Danganronpa has grown up and changed so much since Trigger Happy Havoc first came out in 2010. Many elements that once felt unnecessary and shallow have changed so much since they were originally introduced. And to celebrate how much the series has grown over its 11 years, I want to go over one of the most overlooked characters in the entire Danganronpa series. Mukuro Ikusaba, the ultimate soldier and Junko Enoshima's big sister.
空港に佇む謎の美少女江ノ島純子。そんな彼女が待つのは、そう絶望シスターズの臭い方Ikusaba Mukuroである。
If you played only the first game in the series, and only went through the main story, Mukuro feels largely uninteresting in the grand scheme of things. And honestly, I can't blame you for thinking that. When I first experienced Trigger Happy Havoc, Mukuro just felt like a character meant to be a plot device. Similar to how I feel about Rantaro from Danganronpa V3. There's a reason the most well-known thing about Mukuro is a meme.
Mukuro Ikusaba, the 16th student, lying hidden somewhere in this school. The one they call the ultimate despair. Watch out for her.
However, the real interesting stuff from Mukuro comes from outside the games. Eventually, I started putting the story pieces together, and then I started forming a very different picture of Mukuro in my mind. What I originally thought to be a boring henchman for Junko eventually turned out to be a girl who pondered what she really wanted in her life. I guess there's no better place to start than to start at the beginning of Mukuro's story. We can learn the most about Mukuro's childhood from her profile in Danganronpa 1. From her profile, we learn that Mukuro has had a fascination with weapons ever since she was in elementary school. When Mukuro went on a family vacation to Europe in middle school, she ended up going mysteriously missing. However, 3 years later, she returned to Japan, and Mukuro said that she wasn't kidnapped, but rather became part of the mercenary group known as Fenrir. Fenrir is an elite military group that have gone into many military battles and operations. It was an extremely dangerous job. Mukuro most likely didn't make many friends in Fenrir, if any at all. There was always the possibility of the person sitting next to you being dead the very next day, and getting attached to anyone in the battlefield is seen as a sign of weakness, qualities that don't make for a good soldier. Before Junko had even acted out her plans, Mukuro was being turned into a perfect ally for Junko Enoshima. Junko then calls on the help of Mukuro when going to Hope's Peak Academy, in order to help her cause the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. You see, Junko is the more analytical of the two despair sisters, and doesn't like getting her hands down and dirty. As such, Mukuro acts as a great counterpart to Junko, as she just follows the orders she's told, and is more than willing to get her hands down and dirty. Mukuro will willingly kill people without hesitation, and mess with other people's brains if Junko demands it. It makes one ask, why does Mukuro go along with what Junko says without question? Well, part of that might be due to her time in Fenrir, but there's another reason as to why Mukuro carries out Junko's actions. In Danganronpa 0, it's revealed that everything that Mukuro has done in her life has been for the sake of carrying out Junko's will. This is because Mukuro believes she is the only person in the world that understands her sister, and as the big sister in her family, she has a duty to fulfill the wishes of her little sister. She believed Junko looked to her for support, and that Mukuro was someone that she could rely on. Some other things we learn about Mukuro is how she feels about Junko attempting to kill her own sister. Before she enters Hope's Peak Academy, Mukuro feels ecstasy from the prospect of how much despair Junko will face from killing her own sister. These unconventional feelings towards Junko come from Danganronpa 0. It's stated that Mukuro's love towards Junko goes beyond just any familial love, but more so of a lust towards Junko, a lust that goes beyond any normal person. Finally, Junko regularly abused and insulted Mukuro. However, Mukuro believed it was okay for Junko to do these things. That's because she believed no matter how much Junko insulted or abused her, Junko would always love her. In fact, Mukuro believed that abusing her was Junko's way of showing affection to her. At the beginning of Mukuro going to Hope's Peak Academy, she only cares about satisfying her sister's needs. However, as time passes on in Hope's Peak, those feelings start to change. We get to learn more about Mukuro's feelings while in Hope's Peak by reading the light novel Danganronpa If. While the events that take place in this story are non-canon and don't affect the plot of the overall series, past events are referenced in this novel that line up with canon Danganronpa entries. So, events that are mentioned before this story takes place probably happen in the actual canon. Anyway, in Danganronpa If, we learned that Mukuro had developed feelings towards Makoto Naegi, one of her classmates. This is because Makoto was the first ever person to smile at Mukuro, and it was something she still treasured even when the killing game started. Mukuro would always pay attention to Makoto. However, she never expressed her true feelings to him. This is not only because of Mukuro's lower than average social skills, but also because Makoto had a crush on another girl in his class. For most of her school life, this doesn't really cause her to question Junko's actions. That is until the final steps of Junko's plans start to commence. When Mukuro learns that Junko's gonna force the students of Class 78 to kill each other, she starts to doubt her resolve, and this doubt starts to pull at her heart like a vine. This is because, unlike Junko, who sees her classmates as a means to bring despair onto the world, Mukuro has formed an actual connection with her classmates. For the first time in her life, Mukuro now cares about someone other than her sister, and unlike Junko, who sees forming relationships as a means to bring the worst kind of despair to people, Mukuro forms relationships to help people attain their wants and desires. After all, that's what she's been doing with Junko this whole time. And with the prospect of the killing game, Mukuro contemplates whether to satisfy her sister's wants or whether to satisfy her classmates' wants. When she confirms that everyone's memories have been erased in the entrance hall, she believes it'll be like before entering Hope's Peak Academy, with just Junko. However, she still feels this doubt pulling at her heart. This doubt is only intensified in her free time events. While her first and second free time events don't really have anything interesting, Mukuro's third free time event shows us a new perspective on her character. She talks about how she's been pursuing a dream of hers for her entire life, but now, her dreams are starting to change. Mukuro states that if her dreams change, she'll be able to have new opportunities and grow as a person, and believes that if she doesn't change her dreams, she'll miss out on something in her life. But what is this old dream that she's worked her life for anyway? Well, it's not being a part of Fenrir. That group disbanded years after the event of Trigger Happy Havoc. No. Based on everything we've seen up till now, I believe that old dream was satisfying Junko's desires. While I can't say for sure what her new dream is, I assume it's a dream involving Makoto and the rest of Class 78. This shows that Mukuro had the potential to change for the better. And while this doesn't forgive her from her crimes in the past, it shows that she was going on the right path, and that she could make amends for her past mistakes. While I could come up with a scenario of what would have happened if Mukuro survived, I think Danganronpa If paints a pretty good picture of what if. I highly recommend checking it out if you're interested. Unfortunately, before Mukuro can make a choice on which group to satisfy, Junko, or the rest of Class 78, Junko kills Mukuro for violating the killing game rules. Remember how I said before entering Hope's Peak Academy, Mukuro felt ecstasy towards the idea of Junko killing her own sister? Well now, Mukuro doesn't even show a hint of ecstasy or even happiness upon her death. Instead, she shows confusion, shock, and dread. And then, it's over. Mukuro dies, and her story ends. A person who wanted to change had that opportunity taken from her by her own sister. Mukuro had said she was the only one who truly understood Junko. However, she probably didn't truly understand Junko until it was far too late.